This is The Gorge, a podcast where my friend Sara and I gorge ourselves on overanalyzing a game or game-related topic. The Gorge is brought to you by Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/thegorgepodcast. And if you donate to us, you get a bunch of cool stuff, and we'll also make more stuff if we get enough money.
Eloquent.
Yeah. But what are we talking about today?
This week we're doing something a little bit different, and we are doing, what are we even calling this? Retro week? Classics week?
I mean, it's just generally we're kind of focusing more, because there's not really a lot of big new releases this year.
Right.
So we're just kind of focusing more on the past and looking backward.
We actually have time this year to play old releases, games that the two of us never played, or one of us has never played. And there's a few games on the schedule. So this week, because Benjamin had never played it all the way through, we're talking about Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, the GameCube, the Nintendo 3DS, and I think it's on all of the different virtual consoles. So
yeah, I think it's on the Wii. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on the Wii Virtual Console and all that.
Wild.
It's very interesting, and I think I've told my story on the podcast before. I know I've told it to you.
You've told it to me, but refresh everybody.
Yeah, so obviously it's weird that you played it to completion and I never did, because I was the one who actually owned an N64
right
at the time. So way back when, like before I was an adult man and I was a baby instead, you know, we didn't buy games. We would always rent them, you know, because back then games were short enough that you could beat them within the week rental period, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's funny because like my collection of like N64 or Super Nintendo games is actually relatively small compared to, you know, when I started earning money and could buy my own stuff.
Yeah, right.
So one of the rentals that I did was Ocarina of Time, of course, because everyone in school talked about how great Ocarina of Time was.
Right.
So I played it, and all my friends played it, and they owned it and stuff, and they would not stop talking about it. I got up to the Great Deku Tree.
Yes.
And was immediately discouraged from ever playing this game again because it was full of giant spiders. It was a whole dungeon crawling
full of giant
with
spiders.
These hideous skull spiders. And I turned it off, and I had no desire to continue playing it because they scared me too much.
That is amazing.
And by the time I matured enough to, like, overcome that fear, like, it was too late. The N64 had passed, and we were on to the GameCube, and, you know, Mario Sunshine was out.
There were games to play on new systems, there was no time.
There was Wind Waker, and other shit to play, so
absolutely.
Ocarina of Time just kind of got pushed to the wayside, and I never really had a chance to revisit it at all, until, like, the 3DS version came out. And so at the beginning of the year, I picked that up because I knew we were going to do classic games this year, like focus on old stuff we never played before. So I made that one of the priorities.
Well, congratulations, you finally did it. You beat Ocarina of Time. It took you 20 years, but by God, it actually is basically 20 years because Ocarina of Time came out, at least in Japan, in 1998. So it's been 20 years. And you finally did it.
Yeah, it's you know, of course, it's obviously very culturally important, and it is a milestone game, you know,
absolutely.
without a doubt. Like, it's super important.
Yeah, this podcast exists in part because of the strange influence that Ocarina of Time and Final Fantasy VII had on me.
I will say, from an objective video game standpoint, Wind Waker and Breath of the Wild blow it out of the water.
Absolutely. Wind Waker is probably, except for dungeons. Dungeons in Wind Waker are like baby shit easy mode, so they don't count. Like, Ocarina of Time, I think, still has some of the better dungeons in the series.
It has some really good dungeons,
It has
for sure.
some good-ass dungeons and some really good dungeon design and puzzle design, even with all of the goddamn sliding blocks, because everybody's like, shit, we're in 3D, but modeling circles is hard. Put squares everywhere. Yeah, but it's, basically Wind Waker took the Ocarina of Time design philosophy and iterated on it to basic perfection. Twilight Princess is almost better, but there's a few missed opportunities in Twilight Princess that kind of don't elevate it.
There are very good reasons that Twilight Princess is so divisive.
Yeah, Twilight Princess is good, but it's also kind of like we could talk about Twilight Princess one day, probably. I could probably do a whole, 6 hours on why I really love Twilight Princess, but also I acknowledge all of Twilight Princess's glaring flaws, and of which there are very, very many, but it's still, one of my top 5.
It wasn't a bad game, for sure.
It's not a bad game. No. And Ocarina of Time is definitely in my top 5. Nostalgia, it's an interesting thing, for you to have played it as a grown-ass man, and for me to have played it. The last time I played Ocarina of Time, I didn't even replay it to get ready for this, because I basically have it fucking memorized. So, the last time I played Ocarina of Time, I was 19. Yeah. I played it on an emulator. It was 10 years ago. Yeah.
Almost 10 years ago. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I'm 29. It was 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah. For you, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I played it on an emulator in my college dorm, and I loved it even then. I mean, it was still just it was Ocarina of Time. It's for me, it's like going home, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
But it is interesting to kind of go back to it and have very different reference points for video games.
That's something I think is really interesting about this kind of specific topic, the way we're kind of doing games that you have played that I have not, and then I have played and you have not. That we're going to have very different opinions about them because we play them at such drastically different points in our lives.
Yeah, it's wild. I would really at some point like to do a Final Fantasy VII episode, even though I know it's been a while since you've played FF7, and it's not as... That's another game that's scarred into my brain, so I can probably talk about it without even... If you said, Sarah, do you want to do a podcast about Final Fantasy VII instead of Ocarina of Time? I'd be like, yeah, sure. So I have opinions about Rufus Shinra. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And Ocarina of Time is much in the same vein. It's I guess when I look at it, it's a good, I know for one, and nobody will ever be able to tell me it's not a good video game. I would fight you. But also, I look at it and I just see it as this is the beginning for me, for a lot of people, for a whole new world in video games. Mm-hmm. I've been listening to a lot of Jeremy Parrish on YouTube lately. He's a really cool guy. He reviews old retro Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and NES games. The occasional mention of N64, but his bread and butter is SNES, NES, and Game Boy. Mm-hmm. And it's been interesting. I basically missed that entire I've played maybe 3 or 4 Super Nintendo games in my entire life.
Right.
And so I don't have those games as a reference point. Where I begin is Ocarina of Time. Real talk, this is where it all begins for me. It's being in my room, and I've said this here before, it's being in my room when I was a little kid and hearing my brother go, Sarah, could you help me with this game? And, that just kind of is where it started. Now,
what's interesting about that is that, like you said, that's a starting point for you, but, Ocarina of Time, and same with Final Fantasy VII, both of them were such radical departures from previous iterations.
Yeah, I know. That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, that's what makes it so big, is, for you having, kind of, I don't want to, dismiss it, but,
no.
You having that unique experience of, this is brand new to me, that's what everyone who played Ocarina of Time got, because even if you were a seasoned Zelda veteran, this was a whole rebranding of the franchise.
Yeah, it was a complete and total remaking of the franchise into something very different, something way different from A Link to the Past and
Link's
Zelda 1
Awakening
and 2. Yeah, I don't know if Link's Awakening predates Ocarina of Time. I'm not sure. That's not something I'm going to Google.
No, it does. It does because it
Okay.
still used the Link to the Past style art for Link.
Okay.
Like Link's like cutscene design was still the brown undershirt.
Right. Okay.
And they hard moved on from that when Ocarina of Time came out.
Bad look.
It is very early.
It's not a good look. It's very Hobbit. I always think all the old art of Link and like the original like game stuff makes him look like a Hobbit, and I'm like, that's weird.
I always love like looking through the Hyrule Historia and looking at the official timeline, and it's like, oh, here's this beautiful CG rendered Skyward Sword Link as the beginning, and then here's Ocarina of Time Link, and he's very anime-esque, he's very modern looking, and then next chronologically is little cartoony early 80s like
Hobbit early 80s
yeah,
Link in his brown
Link.
undershirt. Yeah.
It's like if you look at like Revolver Ocelot chronologically and he goes
His
from
graphics
like
get worse and then better and then worse again.
Yeah, he goes from like, all right, pretty decent 3D model to really good looking 3D model to blocky mess.
It's just squares, and then it jumps right back to like PS3 era models.
Yeah, and then another like slightly better model, and then like glorious PS4 or PS3 model from PS4. Like,
oh my god. Oh my god, it's so weird. Yeah, the fucking... Oh, I saw that in your notes. I didn't want to, like, read your notes because, like, I don't need your notes to do this, but I did, like, kind of peeked at them. I love that you're so right that this is where the fucking timeline bullshit begins.
Right? Yeah.
Ocarina of Time is the source of all of the fucking timeline garbage in the Zelda series, and it's all because Princess Zelda had a really stupid idea.
Oh, I mean, she was a toddler, so like it's understandable.
She's like 10, but boy, it was a bad idea. Everything about about it. No, okay, I got it.
About the plot. First.
Yeah, everything about like because when I was 10, right, when I played Ocarina of Time. So, like, when I was 10, I was like, yeah, that sounds fine. Go out there and fuck up Ganon. Fuck up Ganondorf. That's cool. He's a bad dude. I'm 30. I'm going to be 30 in a few months now. And I look back at it, and I'm just like, all I can see is a pair of toddlers conspiring to murder a grown-ass man who at that point in time had actually not done anything.
So here's the funny part is that like that's one of the timelines, and then after you beat the game, the child timeline is Kid Link and Kid Zelda just go to the king and say, hey, Ganondorf is planning something, arrest him. And that works.
And it worked.
And that creates a timeline.
And that made a timeline, and you're just... If you think about it, you're like, what the fuck?
You're technically playing, like, if Ocarina of Time is like a standard JRPG nowadays, you're playing the neutral path.
You're playing the neutral path. You totally are. You're not doing anything good or evil.
You get the neutral ending by playing Ocarina of Time, and then the New Game Plus is Kid Link and Kid Zelda just get Ganondorf arrested, and that's your good ending.
And that's your fucking good ending, and then it sets up for fucking Twilight Princess, and it's all because Zelda had a bad idea when she was 10 years old.
And no shame to Zelda, because again, she was a baby. She was a baby. She was in her diapers. And
I like that as we get older, like a 10-year-old is like a toddler now.
Yeah, right? That's I love doing that, being like, what, you're 12? Oh, so you are an infant?
So you're like an infant baby still sleeping in a crib? They look like it.
So no shame to Zelda, because she was a fetus.
Right.
But all fucking shame to Impa, who was like, yeah, this tracks. this is a good idea.
This is fine. I am a grown woman, and I am going to go along with
a woman who is clearly, what, in like her 40s, she looks like?
She's like gotta be in her 30s. I know she's in her 30s because anime women are never allowed to be any older than like 32.
She's like a mature woman. She's not like a 20-something.
She's a grown-up, yes. Impa is a grown-up. She's like a you and me grown-up, like a for real grown-up.
Someone who had a formal education and completed it. And then she's like, yeah, baby Zelda.
We're gonna conspire to murder the king of a neighboring nation because you had a bad dream. That's what it is. Literally, Zelda is conspiring against the emissary of a diplomatic neighbor to the Kingdom of Hyrule because she had a scary dream about a brown man. And there's a lot of kind of weird, like, racist shit in Ocarina of Time, like, design-wise, that when you look at it now, in, like, 2018, you're like, ah.
Like, they really had to redesign Ganondorf for Twilight Princess. They're like,
maybe we shouldn't give the evil brown man a giant hook nose that just screams like horrible racist caricatures.
Like if you look at the Gerudo in Ocarina of Time and you look at them in Breath of the Wild, you're like, okay, there's a difference.
They learned.
They really cleaned up a little bit. But like Now, again, to be fair, the first time you see Ganondorf, he's literally skulking the hallways. Like, there's no other way to describe it besides him, like, skulking.
But not really! The first time, Zelda and Link see Ganondorf, he has, like, one weird, like moment where he looks through the window and, like, grins, but literally, the only time you see Ganondorf before he shows up at, like, the scary cutscene before, like, when Zelda runs away with Impa, like, all you see of him is he walks up to the King of Hyrule and he kneels, and Zelda's like, that's the scary brown man in my dreams! and then he looks at them and he kind of, like, smirks, and you're like, I guess he's evil. And then we're all just like, oh no, Nintendo, you have to show it more.
He's got to do something bad first.
He has, I mean, at that point, he's, like, literally done nothing wrong. Like, there's no proof whatsoever that this guy is a bad dude. And, I mean, yes, he ends up being a real bad dude, but that's not the point.
But prejudice.
There's
some prejudice going on.
And that's a 10-year-old, and her plan was a bad one. That's the thing. If Impa had been like, no, we probably should find a different way, like, not, doing this thing that would actually make it super, super easy for the world to basically end. Like, if Impa had been, like, even a little bit more of a grown-up, so it probably could have gone a different way. But no, here we are. That's how the plot of Ocarina of Time starts. 2 10-year-olds have a bad idea, and one grown-ass woman goes along with it. That's the plot. Yeah, fine.
And, when your plan takes 7 years to begin, you might want to rethink some things, but...
Yeah, Link's and Zelda's plan is like the equivalent of like they're gonna take the bad guy and they're gonna lock him. They're gonna make him chase them into a room, right? And then they're gonna lock the door behind them, so the bad guy is in the room, but the bad guy is in the room with them, so they're still fucked. That's literally what happens with the fucking Sacred Realm, is that they didn't think this plan through.
It's not a good strategy, and there's a lot of moving parts that they have to organize.
It's not great. It all rests on the fact that Zelda wrote a note to the guard at Death Mountain saying, "This is my friend Link. Please let him through so he can murder this guy." Like, a little uncomfortable. My chair is very squeaky, so if you're hearing that in the audio, that's what it is. My chair has gotten very squeaky out of nowhere. Anyways, Zelda's plan is bad, and it's her fault we have this fucking timeline nonsense that I still can't make sense of.
What I've really noticed a lot lately in Zelda, and like I've now that I've played Ocarina of Time and I played like the Zelda and I've played other ones in the past, like Zelda is very extra.
She's a bit much.
She's a very dramatic individual.
She's a very dramatic little girl, it's true.
When you meet her in Twilight Princess, she is draped in a cloak.
Even though she's inside?
And she is being very mysterious, even though there's no one sentient around to, like, obscure her identity from.
Right. Yeah.
And in Breath of the Wild, she is...
A lot?
She is very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of her in Breath of the Wild.
There's a lot going on with her in Breath of the Wild.
And in Twilight Princess, or in Wind Waker, she is a pirate captain, and she's 12.
She's the best character in Wind Waker, though.
I love Tetra.
Tetra is the best, and deserved better than the ending of that fucking game, where she, again, with the whole uncomfortable things Nintendo does sometimes, gets white, and then hangs out in the basement with the King of Hyrule for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yikes. Whoopsie.
I mean, she turns back into Tetra at the end, but
kind
still.
of a weird thing, though. And then in this game, she's like, I'm gonna run around as a boy and not tell you anything that's going on.
There's a lot of things about this game that I've noticed that really colored my perception of it before I played it. Mm-hmm. Like the presence of Sheik and, like, the overbearing presence of Navi and stuff. It's like...
Right.
Sheik doesn't do much besides teach you some songs.
Sheik doesn't do much besides teach you some songs and get their ass kicked once by the thing in the well, which was interesting. Everybody always forgets the scene of the well monster happens, but, like, no, the well monster scene happened. It was pretty, like, sick for 1998. Like, it was actually like a cutscene where cool shit happened. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, she doesn't do a whole lot, and then ended up getting, like, becoming the most baller character in Zelda, like in Hyrule Warriors and fucking Melee, Smash Bros. Mm-hmm. The game is weird.
They had to wholesale design a moveset for her in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, and it was cool. It was very, very cool. But, when you think about it for more than 5 minutes, you're like, there's a lot of really strange shit going on in Ocarina of Time. Like dancing rock people, and all the water in Hyrule flows through my tail.
I think that's going to be the title card, because that's my favorite fucking thing in the goddamn world. Is Mweep, 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 Mweep. All of Hyrule's water passes under my ass and balls. Mweep, 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 Mweep.
God, that fucking scene, everything.
That's
everything
the best.
Everything that's weird about Ocarina of Time, right? Everything that's strange and, like, clearly Nintendo is like, fuck, we gotta make a 3D game. Fuck, we don't know what we're doing. Fuck, you know what I mean? All of it can be summarized in getting into Lord Jabu Jabu's belly, okay? So I am going to recount to you as accurately and factually as possible, without any asides, how you are supposed to get into Lord Jabu Jabu's belly, okay?
Go for it.
Okay. So you get to Zoro's domain, and you're like, I've got to get the water thingy. The fucking whatever. And it's like, well, Princess Ruto knows where it is, but we don't know where Princess Ruto is. Well, okay, let's go find Princess Ruto. Well, Princess Ruto isn't anywhere in Zoro's domain. So what you're supposed to do is then dick around for a little while, jump off the waterfall, collect the rupees, get the scale that lets you dive a little bit deeper, so you can go through a hole in the bottom of Zora's domain that nobody in the game tells you about, so that you are then spit out at Lake Hylia. Don't ask me how.
Yeah, because the map doesn't work.
So then you are spit out at Lake Hylia, and you're like, huh, that's weird. I guess it's a shortcut. And then you're supposed to just kind of know to look around Lake Hylia and find a letter in a bottle from Ruto saying that Lord Jabu Jabu has swallowed me. And then the game, again, does not tell you this. You are supposed to just kind of discern that you are supposed to take that bottle and put a fish in that bottle, and then take that fish to Lord Jabu Jabu, and at a very specific place, drop it in front of him, and then he will open his big fat gob and swallow you.
Now, you're missing a part.
Oh,
you're missing a step.
Am I?
The letter says, don't tell my father.
But you have to tell her father.
And what
That's
you're supposed to do is tell her father.
Her father. You're right. My apologies. It has been 20 years, but I got most of it right. Yeah.
You did. That's an accurate step-by-step procedure as to how you're supposed to enter this dungeon. And again, the game makes no indication that this is what you're supposed to do.
There are zero indications of how you are supposed to get from point A to point B. The game's just kind of like, fuck, yeah, have fun.
One of the notes I wrote down for this is that this game is very bad about, like, actually indicating what you are supposed to do sometimes.
Now, I can't do an Ego Raptor voice, but I'm gonna try. That's bad conveyance.
There's, like, there are a lot of times where I was literally thinking, okay, I need to look up how to do this, or my progress stops now.
Yeah, it was kind of, it's like the least intuitively designed adventure game ever, but I still kind of love it, because, now again, it's nostalgia glasses coloring my experience with Ocarina of Time, and the fact that I have these steps memorized at this point, so I can just kind of, like, go through the motions blindfolded. But that being said, I kind of love how ridiculous, all of the steps to do things in Ocarina of Time are, because it makes the whole thing feel like this weird, crazy adventure, and you really are, like, setting out on your own, and you're trying to find the steps, and you're solving, like, these weird environmental puzzles that make you feel like Indiana Jones. Like, how do you get the fire arrows, Ben?
You have to raise the water in Lake Hylia. Mm-hmm. And then you are supposed to stand on a platform.
Yes.
And you are supposed to shoot an arrow at the sun as it rises between two columns. Mm-hmm. And the arrow will freeze in midair and turn into fire arrows.
How fucking dumb and great is that? That is, like, to me, that's such a pinnacle of you're just setting out on your own, you're having a fucking adventure, you're having a good old time, and you know.
Now this is something I want to talk about extensively, actually, because this is something that's, like, one of the big things about this game.
Go for it.
And it's shit like that, and it's shit like not telling you how to get into Lord Jabu Jabu's belly. Mm-hmm. These are the things, the reasons why this game in particular was so chock full of rumors and urban legends and mysteries and all that stuff that really defined everything about the N64 as a whole.
Yeah.
There were so many of these earlier games, like these mainstream titles like Mario 64 or Zelda or all these where, like, or GoldenEye even, where it's like anything that got left over or that just kind of was, like, thrown in as a random prop but kind of stood out would develop into, what does this mean? What purpose does this thing serve? Because,
yeah.
Because we were so used to back in the Super Nintendo days in the 16-bit era, where it's like, if there was an object in the environment, chances are you could interact with it in some way.
Right, because, like, it was sprite art, and that was hard shit to make.
Sprite art was, like, generally you're working with a much smaller screen. You're working with a two-directional, like, a 2D plane. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't really have the space to put in stuff that's unnecessary, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, there might be stuff, like, decoration-wise, but that'll be obviously in the background or in the foreground and will be, like, cordoned off as you cannot interact with this. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, you play Ocarina of Time and there's stuff like doors that are just painted on, and we didn't know that you could just put doors on buildings and they wouldn't do anything. We didn't have that concept in our brains yet. So we were like, well, why can't I open it? Where does this door go?
Yeah, why can't I go here, or why can't I go in there, right?
Why is this object in the environment? What does it do?
What purpose does it serve? And because, like, And because Ocarina of Time has this weird track record for being kind of strangely unknowable, where, you don't... The conveyance is bad, and it doesn't let you know what you're supposed to do next, it feels like the whole world is full of all these strange little mysteries everywhere, that are just all so... In retrospect, you look at them and you're like, yeah, why is that way? And it's because Nintendo ran out of ideas. They didn't know what to do with this thing, or I don't know, they didn't want to put the Triforce in the game. The model, there's a model for the Triforce in the game, and you can get to it in the dev room. Well, yeah, it's there because they showed the Triforce at one point in the game, so it had to be somewhere.
Yeah, but we don't have that
knowledge.
That knowledge. We don't have that. We didn't have that ability to perceive how games were made.
Right.
And like I told you the other day, I think all N64 games are haunted.
Every single N64 game ever made has a ghost in them.
Every single N64, like way more so than the PlayStation games. I feel like every N64 game has at least one thing in it that you're like, huh, that's weird. Why was it like that?
Why did it do that? There's a lot of weird haunted bullshit in Zelda too.
Oh, dude, Zelda's extra haunted.
It's incredibly haunted.
It has a guy who races you and you can't beat him.
Yeah, you can.
You can't beat the Running Man.
Oh, the Running Man. I thought you meant the graveyard guy. Yeah, you can't beat the Running Man.
Yeah, no, the Running Man, you can't beat him. You just can't.
Nope. You can't. You have to cheat, and if you cheat, I think the game calls you out on it. It's been a long time.
If you cheat, his time is -1 second.
Ah, nice.
So, but you don't beat him.
Nope, you don't beat him.
You don't unfreeze Zora's domain.
No, you don't.
You don't.
You don't. It's all very, very weird. There's just so much strange stuff in Ocarina of Time, if you think about it. The rededs.
You don't even have to think about it that hard, because it's all right in your face.
Yeah, the pose that just kind of hang out on the main map, and the rededs, and everything in the Shadow Temple, and then all the weird shit. I was always really, to me, the weird thing was that you could see interior spaces of Hyrule Castle, but you could never go inside of Hyrule Castle.
Yeah, that's always one of the big things about stuff about N64 games like this is seeing glimpses of environments that you could not go to.
Yeah, they cannot be interacted with because there's just nothing to do in them. They're just there to act as story set pieces. Stuff like that. It's just weird, Zelda's full of weird shit.
There's on the approach to the Hyrule Castle, when you're trying to sneak in and you're close to Zelda, there is a part when you cross over the moat after you push the block into the water to hop over.
Yep.
There's a door there.
Yeah.
And that door cannot be interacted with.
Yeah.
And it's it's at the end of a long path, it's the dead end of a path. So your intuition says go through this door, but it's not a door you can interact with. You're supposed to go to the left to hop through the grate at the side.
Right.
But it's just this weird dissonance as to what you would expect, and that's what makes this game so memorable, I think, is because it was so full of mystery and unintentional discussion topics that were not supposed to actually be in the game, but because of rumors and because of bragging rights for children, these stories sprung out from it.
Yeah, and I think part of it too also comes from the fact, I mentioned it in the episode where we talk about our favorite games, Zelda, and then Final Fantasy VII for me, and just in general, Zelda felt the first time this was kind of a place. You know what I mean? That there were stories going on in the background that you just weren't part of. And that felt weird. You wanted to be in everybody's shit because that's how video games are. And so you have houses that you can't go into and things like that in the castle town and in Kakariko Village, and it all just feels so strange. And that's part of it, is that this game has these kind of secrets hidden in it that people took forever to find, and there's like the whole Biggoron Sword quest line that you didn't finish, but is a nightmare.
Which is a mess. I do know that much. I looked up as to what you're supposed to do, and I went, nah. I don't have the time for that.
The Biggoron Sword does rule, or the Big Goron Sword. I've always called it the Biggoron Sword, even though I know that's wrong, but whatever. It's if they wanted me to call it the Big Goron Sword, they would have put a space between the two G's, so go fuck yourself. But yeah, because there's like weird quest lines like that, and the Bunny Man, and stuff, just strange stuff.
Now, also, the Big Goron Sword, that's something weird, too, because, what is this? You branch off in this little area in the Goron, caves.
Caves?
Oh, you blow up the rocks, and you go down this little hallway, and what's in this hallway? Oh, it's a giant Goron!
It's a giant Goron!
It's just a real big Goron smiling at you!
It's just a big old dude, just like, hi, what's up?
Like, stuck in there?
I guess? I think, but he can also make swords, and he lives on top of Death Mountain. Question mark?
And he's one of the only Gorons still around after the time skip, in 7 years in the future.
Yeah, because I guess not even Ganondorf can move that big fucker.
But he's just there. No one ever talks about there's a big Goron hiding over here somewhere. You just find him.
He's just hanging out. Nobody makes a remark of hey, we have a giant living with us. Nope, he's just kind of there, and you could totally walk by that area and never once notice it. And you would just miss a whole quest line. And sure. And, he gives you a sword that breaks really easily. It's super strong, but it breaks after 2 hits, and now you gotta go find a way to repair this sword, and it's this huge fucking mess. And, I feel like the Biggoron sword quest line is the birth of insane quest lines, like the reviving Aeris in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
All the rumors about to revive Aeris you have to do this and blah 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 blah, and it takes 700 years kind of thing. I feel the Biggoron sword is the nascent point for that.
The progenitor of that whole idea.
Yeah.
Because, and then it's also not helped that later on Nintendo started making some of that shit canon.
Yeah.
With Pokemon evolution shit.
Yeah.
Where one of them is literally hold your 3DS upside down.
You guys are not helping. You are not helping. And the thing is that people are still finding sneaky Easter eggs in other old games to this day, And so because of it, plus the weirdness of Zelda, it just kind of makes all of Ocarina of Time feel like a strange ghost land.
It's a very, playing it now, I feel a lot of that mystery is lost on me because I'm just so familiar with Zelda games in general now.
Right.
And they learned a lot of lessons from Ocarina of Time. And so playing it now, a lot of that mystery is lost on me, but putting myself in the perspective of a child who was experiencing 3D games for the first time, there are a lot of questions to ask.
There's a lot of weird stuff in this game, and I don't know, the everything. The more you think about it, you're well, the ice caves, and why can't I unfreeze the Zora, and just the implications of the redeads, and oh god, the town's burnt to the ground, and it just felt like this strange, weird world. And the racing, seriously, the racing in the graveyard is probably one of the weirder things I've ever done in a video game.
That whole sequence of chasing the ghost of the gravedigger down this branching cavern place.
Yeah, that used to give me the creeps when I was a kid. The fact that
you
could dig in the graveyard always kind of gave me the creeps in general.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that in this game, too. There's a lot of just, weird, creepy shit that, even as a grown-up, you're kind of
this is a very, very unsettling game in a lot of ways. And I think
there's a lot of spooky enemy design.
What really makes it stand out compared to, because this is the first of that. I think, obviously, Twilight Princess had a much darker aesthetic to it overall, but Ocarina of Time is you go from the bright cartoony 80s style Link to this very grim looking like set design. You know, the ruined Hyrule or the ruined Castletown is not even like the Dark World in Link to the Past doesn't even come close to that.
No, absolutely not. It is it's just such a shock to your system when you're a kid because you come out of the 7-year sleep and you walk out of the castle and like immediately you're like, oh, something's up, because like the tone is different, the sky is different, it's all dark and shit, and then you look and you go into Castletown. It's like, oh fuck, everybody's dead. Yeah. There's zombies and it's on fire. Oh my god, you know.
Yeah, every building is smashed in and inaccessible. It's crawling with these screeching ghouls
that are horrible.
Yeah, that are
so traumatizing.
That are. So I learned something actually doing research for this. The Redeads in Castletown cannot paralyze you.
Yeah, I knew that just because. Like, from 1,000 years of playing.
And that is because the backdrop for Castletown is a pre-rendered background.
Right.
And thus the camera cannot zoom in.
Oh, okay.
So they programmed it so that Link freezes because the camera zooms in on whichever Redead frightened you.
Right.
And it can't do that in Castletown, so those ones will not scare you.
Okay. Huh, I used to just always haul ass and hope they wouldn't freeze me. And I mean, like, knowing now, I'm like, oh, they don't freeze me because, like, they just don't. It wouldn't be fair because the whole town is full of Redeads and you would just be stun locked. Like, as a grown-up now, I see it and I go, oh, well, of course they can't freeze you because there's, like, 10 of them and you would get stun locked. It wouldn't be fair. That's bad game design. As a kid, I'm just like, run. Oh my god.
And, of course you're all immediately struck with the implication that these are the townsfolk,
Right. And I mean, some of those townsfolk are still fine in Kakariko.
Yeah, and then, later on you find out the Redeads are inanimate beings created by evil magic, and people in Kakariko, or people in the Castletown evacuated to Kakariko.
Right.
And they're fine, but, you're hit with that right away.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up as adult Link, and everything's different, and you can't access a lot of your gear anymore, and you step outside, and there's just monsters. There's
monsters everywhere, and the castle is floating over lava now, and it's all, spooky and shit looking, and yeah, it's wild. It's a trip. It's the best. It's so cool, even to this day, that they kind of were willing to go kind of hard for their first Zelda installation, 3D Zelda. They were just like, yeah, fuck it, let's go fucking hard, let's make it creepy. And I've said it 1,000 times and I mean it, goddammit. Childhood media is meant to traumatize you, okay? Childhood media exists for the sole purpose of giving you your weird hang-ups about modern media. Everything that traumatized you as a kid is the stuff you gravitate towards as an adult, okay? That's it. And so, Twilight, not Twilight Princess, fuck, I'm gonna keep doing that one, I guess. Ocarina of Time just was spooky. It was spooky as a kid.
There's a lot of, like you said, the enemy design, the
Master Hands, or the
hands, they have a name, the...
Floor Masters!
Floor Masters, that's it, Floor Masters. Master
Which
Hands
is
from Smash Bros.
Yes, it is. That's dope.
Yeah, the Floor Masters, the Redeads, even the Stalfos.
The Stalfos are pretty cool looking. I love the Stalfos in that game. I don't know. I just really like all of those one-on-one fights you have with Stalfos in that game.
There is a blood splatter at the bottom of the well that is never explained.
That they edited out in the 3DS version. You cowards. And the fucking... I don't even know what that fucking thing is, but the horrible hand monster that, is hell with the teeth.
Yeah, the thing at the bottom of the well?
Yeah, the pale, horrible nightmare thing.
Slime with a human head and 5 arms that are burrowed in the ground.
And teeth, giant, creepy fucking teeth. Yeah, traumatizing. Completely and totally.
That is never explained or justified. It just exists.
It kind of just is in that world.
You go to a house in this nice, peaceful Kakariko village, and the house is filled with cobwebs.
And
you approach the center, and a horrible half spider, half man abomination drops down in front of you.
And then that's when Ben turns the game off and goes, it's not realistic because I can't burn the house down.
And again, no one in town seems to care about the spider house.
I literally think there is one NPC in Kakariko who mentions that the people who live in that house are cursed, but they don't they don't say like, oh, they're cursed to be horrible nightmare spider people. They just say, oh, the people in that house are cursed. What?
And like, its exterior looks just fine. It's only when you get inside and it's full of decay and cobwebs and...
Yeah, it's fine on the outside. Although there is a gold Skulltula on the outside of the house, which I think is funny. Like, you could just go outside and kill it.
It's just like... this... Like, the worst kind of horror is the horror that isn't explained or justified. It just exists.
It just kind of is. Oh, and then don't forget, not even horror-wise, just like weirdness-wise, the beans? So, you go and you buy beans from a guy by the river who's just eating them by the fistful out of a sack, right?
Yeah.
And then you bury the beans.
And then 7 years later, it is a flying plant that you can ride to quick travel.
And makes, like, Zora's flying saucer noises.
And it goes to Zora's domain, and... That's how you quick travel there. And there are other ones, too, like, all over the map. You can get a heart piece from one. No, this is so weird. God, this is how much I've played Ocarina of Time. In some of them, so you can bottle bugs, right? Like little skittery bugs that, so like the weird rando holes in the ground that have, like, cows in them sometimes? Yeah.
Because Ocarina of Time is a weird-ass game. If you pick up those rocks or cut the grass, you get little buggies. And you can bottle those little buggy dudes. And then you can take the bugs to where you plant seeds and drop the bugs on that hole, and it will make a gold Skulltula pop out.
So
weird.
So weird.
So weird.
And not intuitive in any way.
Yeah, there's nothing in this game. And the thing is that if you plant a seed there before you do the thing with the bugs, that gold Skulltula is just inaccessible now. Like, you just can't finish it. You can't get that one. Like, you just can't.
That's so... I mean, that's early game design. That's just them messing up. But it's like... That's so... Weird and odd, and you would never, ever, ever think to do that.
And the game never tells you to do it. Ever. Like, I think I had to have a friend tell me, like, oh yeah, you've got to go drop a spider into, like a plant hole, and it'll get you another gold Skulltula. And I'm like, fucking what?
It's like I told you when I was doing the Forest Temple. Mm-hmm. And it's like, boy, if I had never played a video game before... There's no way in a million years I would think I need to shoot these paintings with an arrow to get the ghost to come out. Yeah. I would never think that.
Ever. Never. Oh, it's so weird. Yeah. And, like, again, sliding block puzzles, the whole, like, reassembling a fucking picture thing is, like, the weirdest puzzle mechanic. Probably one of the, like, top 5 weird-ass puzzle mechanics in Ocarina of Time. Because, like... There's... why? Who thought this was fun? Who thought it was a good idea? Like, it's a timed, put the picture together puzzle of the ghost. I don't get it. Ocarina of Time. Why are you like this?
There's so many things in this game that back in, like, fucking 96 or whatever when they were first developing it, that the developers had to be like, yeah, kids will figure this out.
Yeah, this is fine. A child will totally be able to sort this out. No problem. I'm really bitter that the 3DS version has the quality of life change that lets you know, like, what water level will be reached in the water temple. And because
I don't know if you've seen it, but they went real hard into making sure you knew. Like, it's glowing a different color than everything
really? Else. Motherfuckers!
There's this big border around the door that leads to it. There's like a even like a line in the wall that, like, guides you towards that door and it's glowing. God. It's so much better.
See, this is what I mean. When I was your age, me and my friends used to have fun crying about how hard the water temple was together. All right?
Now, here's the thing about the water temple is that, like, even if you did know how to do it perfectly, like, it's still a lot of work to go from place to place. Like, there's no, like, clean way to do it.
Yeah, again, bad conveyance. Like, all of the rooms are really samey, and all of the textures are very, like, the same. So you go into a door and you're like, wait, where the fuck am I?
Like, even if you were a speedrunner and you knew everything about Ocarina of Time, and, you know, you would still be spending a lot of time backtracking in the water temple because there's just a lot of keys and stuff that are dependent on getting other keys and getting other gear.
Yeah, and fucking you have to go here just to change the water level for a different area in the fucking dungeon. Like, it's not great. I won't say that, you know, there's a lot of strangeness that comes from the whole, this was their first foray into 3D puzzle making. And sometimes it's good. I really love the Twisty Hall mechanic in the Forest Temple.
Oh, that's real cool.
It's a really cool effect for a 3D game, for like like the first 3D, not the first 3D game, but for like a mainstream audience 3D game. It's a very cool effect. There's just a lot of really neat little things in Ocarina of Time that I just really like. I love the fucking the hammer. I love the Goron hammer. I like the sound it makes. I love
it does make a good sound.
Makes a good sound. I love most of the fire temple. I don't like that one room where you have to avoid the rolling boulders, because it just stresses me out.
I didn't like that area either.
No, and I didn't like, because the controls in Ocarina of Time can be kind of fiddly sometimes. Trying to actually get the Goron hammer is a nightmare because you have to walk along a little slim wall and not fall like 8,000 feet to your doom. That part was never fun for me. And, you know, but then there's like other things I really love. The boss fights in Ocarina of Time are like really good.
Oh, they're all real good. Like, man, there's a reason people talk about that Dark Link battle because that's awesome.
It's awesome!
A cool sword battle.
It's a cool, just a one-on-one fucking sword battle, and you've got to, like, be really tactical about it, because, like, he mirrors you perfectly, so you have to find ways to kind of get around it, and I'm really just kind of shocked that they haven't brought back Dark Link for another Zelda game, like, ever. You know? Like, in that context, I guess it's because it would lose its punchiness, but man, in, like, a modern Zelda game, you could get a really cool-ass sequence out of it, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, I don't know, I can't think of any Zelda that it would fit in.
Right.
Too. Like, it wouldn't really fit in, like, Breath of the Wild, or, like, I mean, as cute as it would be, it wouldn't fit in Wind Waker.
No, it would not.
I mean, you can play as Dark Toon Link in Smash Bros, and he's adorable.
Yeah, it's not quite as threatening.
Yeah.
But no, and, like, there's just cool design, like the Dark Link battle, like the boss room for the Dark Link fight is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It looks like a Bloodborne area.
It looks like a Bloodborne area. It does. It's just endless. I just love it. It's so, again, because when you're a kid, and I guess these things just kind of stick in your brain as a kid, but it's like, it's an endless room, and then 2 doors on either side, and fucking a tree in the middle of it, and that's it. Like, it's such like it's so sparse compared to how bright and colorful and lively the rest of Ocarina of Time felt, that it wedges itself into your brain, and every now and then you think, like, man, the Dark Link fight room was really cool.
You always remember, like, really distinctive parts of games like that, and Ocarina of Time is a game that's built out of distinctive parts that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it was just always, I don't know, the whole game is full of these little places that I just loved.
Places and vignettes and characters and like things that will just stay with you because you notice them so blatantly. Like, you wonder what they are, and you remember them because they stand out so much compared to anything else you've seen before.
Yeah, and it was always just so, I don't know, it was like a fun little world to just hang out in, and So when, like, people are always like, well, the world in Ocarina of Time is really empty. They're right, for one. The world in Ocarina of Time is incredibly empty. But I don't know. It kind of isn't either. It's like the main field is big and empty, but it also kind of has like a weird, you just walk out into it and it's just big open field, and it feels so sprawling, and it was nothing like it when you were a kid. And it was full of little secrets. It was full of those little holes in the ground that you could just stumble upon. Most of the stuff in it wasn't great. Rupees and shit like that. But I don't know. The random fairy fountains just hanging out in the world felt so cool and unique.
And again, speaking of terror, the great fairies are...
the great fairies traumatized my little brother.
Why do they gotta scream like that?
Why do they have to scream? Yeah, they scream a lot, and they're so flamboyant, and they're so like huge.
Why is Link constantly being assaulted by all these cougars?
Yeah, because everybody wants the hot young time traveling swordsman.
Like Link, there are at least like 5 or 6 cougars in Zelda games in general.
Like Telma making
Link.
Weird passes at Link in Twilight Princess.
Telma and like all of the great fairies in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
are all like super hot older ladies. Twin Rova hits on him a little bit.
Yeah, and Twin Rova is a whole conversation because
Twin Rova's great. I honestly love that battle because for one thing, they're the only bosses that like talk to you.
Right.
Like, they're just these weird cackly granny witches, and you fight them one-on-one a little bit, and you kind of smack them around really easily because they give away their weakness.
Yeah, because they're dumb. They're dumb old grannies who argue about their age.
And then they fuse together into like a really hot older lady.
Into like this fucking smoking ass MILF like genie lady, and you're like, boy, this is a weird boner. Okay,
and then you defeat her, and she splits apart.
Yes, and then they go to heaven for some reason.
They argue with each other,
yes.
And then they go to heaven.
Koume and Kotake arguing about who's the older twin. They're like 4,000 years old, and they're arguing on their way to heaven with little DBZ style halos over their heads, and they're just ascending to the sky.
They go to heaven.
Yes, and it's
that's it. They're over.
There have been no other bosses that you have a conversation with in the whole game. Like every other boss in Ocarina of Time is like a fucking monster thing, but no, Twin Rova is like a sexy lady who can talk to you and flirts with Link, and you're like, this is really weird.
And then they
die and go to heaven. Sure.
It's so weird.
Sure. Absolutely. Why not? God. And so I thought about it too. I was thinking about this game, and like the game kind of builds like the weird like mortal enemies thing between Ganondorf and Link, right?
Yeah.
They interact like 3 times in the whole game.
Oh yeah, they don't really have a lot of like one-on-one. What I did notice about it though is that like Ocarina of Time Ganondorf feels very different from like Twilight Princess or Wind Waker Link. Mm-hmm. Like for one thing, he's constantly just calling Link Kid.
Yes,
as like this like affectionate little nickname for him.
Yeah, it's weird.
He goes from like having like these great like dramatic monologues, and then he's like, "You got gumption, kid."
Yeah,
like he turns into Wolverine.
Because like old localization for like Japanese games is like the weirdest, most inconsistent shit ever. Like they didn't know how to give a character it's so weird. They have no idea how to give characters like a proper voice. You know what I mean?
No, for sure. Like you go from Wind Waker's like Ganondorf, he's like, I coveted that wind.
Yeah, he's so dramatic and
then
like
you play Ocarina of Time, and Ocarina of Time Ganondorf is like, You got guts, kid.
He's like a fucking mobster in a he's a fucking mobster in like a fantasy game.
He's like fucking Sabretooth compared to Magneto.
You're so right. It's like, and it's because like the localization for Ocarina of Time is the weirdest fucking shit. And,
it was in that time period where they didn't quite know like how to convey Japanese, like, you know, you
speaking
had your
mannerisms. Yeah,
you had your Ted Woolseyisms all over the place, and that was like we had still not gotten out. Like, obviously Ted Woolsey didn't have the translation for Ocarina of Time, but like,
right.
You know, you could feel his touch on
his
like
influence,
anything.
The touch of Ted Woolsey on Ocarina of Time.
So here's the best thing ever. I don't know if you ever played it, but I love a game called Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the N64.
Yeah, fucking shit, that game is so good!
It is one of my favorite N64 games of all time. And and that is a game that is horribly Japanese.
Oh, it's so Japanese,
That's chock full, like, that's all Japan all the time, and it is full of Japanese visual gags that they couldn't edit to, like, for Western audiences, but they try to
make sense.
Yeah, but then they try to like translate the script to make sense to a Western audience. And
oh man,
God, the fucking like going back and thinking about like certain scenes in that game, like and how they were translated is like
the weirdest thing.
There's so much fucking dissonance in that, and I love it.
Yeah, because like old-timey translators did not know how to like. So if a character speaks in a certain... Because, like, okay, I get where Ganondorf's kid... Now, I don't know this for a fact because I don't know a lot about the Japanese script of Ocarina of Time. But I know where Ganondorf's script, his kid thing, comes from, right? It's because... It almost certainly is because in the Japanese version of Ocarina of Time, he probably called Link, like, shonen? Like, boy?
It's probably supposed to be, like, boy. Or, you
yeah,
know,
it's a dismissive, like... Oh, don't fool with me, boy. You know, the thing. But because that's like a weird translation thing, like shonen is like a strange translation thing between like, you know, Japan and America, they decided on kid, which has like completely different connotations.
It has a more like almost affectionate or like not respect, but like admirable like connotation to it, you know?
Yeah, it's more casual. There's the word.
Yeah, casual or like friendlier almost.
Yeah,
you know?
like kid, you're so fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like boy is like dismissive. You're looking, especially if like when you're playing as an adult and like Ganondorf looks at you and says, "Don't mess with me, boy." You know?
Right, exactly. That's almost assuredly what it is, but instead, like, it creates this weird sort of, like...
dissonance.
It creates this weird sort of, like, rambunctious Ganondorf.
Yeah,
who's,
totally.
Like, more, like, not, like, you know, kind of, like, more boisterous and more, like,
more like a thug.
About things. Yeah.
Not like a noble king. He's like a thug asshole.
Yeah, exactly, you know?
But he plays the organ.
Yeah, and then he plays the organ, and he has that whole thing where he's like, the Triforce parts are resonating, and he has this big dramatic speech, and it's like, it's just this weird sort of, like, thing that Ganondorf never had again, and I don't know if that's, like, because, you know, it was the transition from he's a big pig monster to making him, like, a humanoid, and then, like, by Wind Waker, they had found him as more of this noble, like, you know, not endearing, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, understandable, like, sympathetic villain. Yeah, more, and that kind of, like, his reception in Wind Waker was so strong that, like...
Justice for Ganondorf, goddammit! Can we please get another game with him in it? Like, for real?
Like, they just kind of carried over that sort of nobility, or if it is, like, just a weird translation issue where they didn't quite know what to do with the script to convey the right feeling.
Yeah, it's so weird, and I love it. I love that he's canonically playing the music that is in, like, he is playing the final dungeon music while you're fucking solving his puzzles.
So Link is running around in his basement, and he's like fighting occasional enemies, And it's just him and Zelda. Zelda is suspended 20 feet in the air above the organ.
In a pink crystal.
And he's just playing it.
He's just banging it out on the fucking organ. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Sure.
That's
just
amazing.
Roll with it. Yeah. But, and then, like, there's just, like, these moments where Ocarina of Time just, like, really, really shines, though, because, like, again, the boss battles are super good. And,
they're all real
when
good.
When I was, like, a kid, some of the end game stuff just felt, like, epic. Like, in the real meaning of the word, not the stupid internet version meaning of the word. It felt like you were, like, this epic hero on this huge quest, and you can lift boulders now, and holy shit, you know?
So what's really interesting about that, actually, you know what, that reminds me, don't let me forget to talk about the items in this game, but, like, in regards to the boss battles, like, every boss battle I went up in this game in my playthrough was weird, because it followed the same pattern.
Yeah, they all have the same pattern.
No, my pattern was, I go in, and I get through one set of its attacks, and then it kills me.
Yes.
And then I go in again, and I crush it.
Yeah.
Every boss battle went through that pattern. Which was, it destroys me before it even gets, like, halfway down to its, like, desperation phase.
Right.
And then I wreck it.
Yeah, absolutely. And
but that created, like, this great, like...
Tension?
Tension, and, like you said, like, it builds this epic quality to it, because this foe that just smacked me down, and then I'm coming back and giving it another go, and I'm triumphant over it.
Yeah, because you're just like, oh, I lost once before, but I can come back and I know what I'm doing now, and you just ace it, and it's a great feeling, and the bosses are huge, especially for an N64 game. Like, Volvagia is massive, the dragon in the fire temple.
Yeah, the dragon, dude.
Yeah, Volvagia is huge, and you really feel like a hero, like in all the old stories, you know, like you're a hero fighting a dragon. You are a knight killing a dragon, which is like the coolest shit. You know what I mean? It's the coolest
so great.
Shit.
Yeah.
And the Forest Temple Phantom Ganon boss fight is really cool. In retrospect now, I realize it's actually prepping you for the final boss Ganon fight.
Yeah,
like
with tennis.
Yeah, with tennis. Tennis rules. I used to just replay the final boss fight of Ocarina of Time because I liked like getting my tennis up as fast as possible. You know? It's just fun. And the Morpha, which is the water temple boss battle. Yeah, it just feels intense because this thing can just lunge out and grab you and throw you around, and you just felt like you were really this guy on this incredible quest killing these monsters, and you felt like a fucking hero when it was done. You were just like, I did it, I won, and you felt like a badass the whole time.
That and Bongo Bongo.
Bongo Bongo is great. I mean, it sucks, but it's great.
That design is so perfect and intimidating and terrifying. There's nothing like it in the rest of the game, and it's you are at a loss as to how to fight it at first.
Yeah. Because it's big, and Bongo Bongo especially, he's big and he's fast and he's aggressive,
and you have to keep the lens of truth on at all times. Like,
so you're draining magic. Yeah. Oh man, it's great, and you have to be quick on the draw with the bow and arrows, so like you feel like fucking Legolas when you're doing it. You know, like when you're getting in the fucking motion, you're just like, what? You just pull it back, and you feel so cool to this day. I could probably go back and replay Ocarina of Time right now and get it done in like 10 hours because, memorized. And to this day, I could still feel like a badass in some of those fights because they are just the coolest thing. They are the coolest thing.
There are so many like moments in this game that like, sets it apart from other Zelda games. Like, yeah, for one thing, it's super terrifying in a lot of ways, but like, the first bit of the game is you are this little kid in this little fairy forest, and you're running around with your elf buddies, and you have to go fight the Great Deku Tree, and you get to this big scary dungeon, and you fight the boss. Mm-hmm. And then it's like
Goma. By the way, it's been 10 years, but I still know all of their names.
And you get out, and he's like, "That was great, but it's too late."
Yeah.
And the first thing you experience is the Great Deku Tree dying.
Yeah. And it's like this like moment. You're just
this
like,
tone
oh
setter.
my god. You're like, like as a hero, you failed, and it's not your fault because there was never any hope for Link to do it anyways because the Deku Tree was doomed from the start. But like, you still get this feeling of like, oh, I failed, and oh, I'm not really a Kokiri. I'm a Hylian. I don't belong here. That's why I didn't have a fairy to begin with. You know, you're like this freak, and everything is so. You just get this sense of like, oh God, where do I go and where do I belong? And yeah, it was great. And then you're thrown out from like little, because you know the Kokiri forest is intentionally kind of small, and you know it feels very comfortable because there's walls everywhere, like the walls of the trees are everywhere, so it feels very cozy and safe. And then you say goodbye to Saria, and then you're flung out into like the wide open world, and you've gone from like. Every area in Ocarina of Time up to this point has been boxed in. It's got walls around it. Even the Great Deku Tree's like little area spot has walls around it. So then you are flung out, and suddenly all of the walls are gone, and you're out in this huge open field, and there's blue skies and green grass, and you're just like, you get that sense, you're like in a fucking Miyazaki movie, man, where you just go like, and then like the beauty of nature hits you, and when you're a kid, you're just like, you could feel like the wind in your face, and God, I can like remember those feelings to this day. It's 20 years now, and I can still remember some of those feelings like to this day.
And that music picks up too.
Yes! Oh my god!
Hyrule Field music picks up, and you are just like, it's beginning. This is the beginning. This
is the beginning of the adventure for real. Like, you are now actually, that's just, the Deku Tree is the prologue, you know? But now it's like, oh shit, this is the adventure. You know, you're a kid in a big open world, and you've just got to, like, make your way. It's so good!
Now, like, playing it in retrospect like this, I feel like this kind of weird sort of, like, dissonant sadness about the Kokiri especially.
Yeah.
Knowing that eventually they become the Korok.
Yeah. That has always, like, bummed me out that canonically they become the Korok, but I guess the Korok are still pretty happy.
Now, that being said, the Korok are all adorable, and I love every single one of them. They're the cutest little acorn people ever.
Yeah!
But like, you know, they were these fun, happy little elf kids, and then somehow they turn into the Korok.
Yeah, and I think that's, but you know, in a sense, like, they don't even mind, is the thing.
No,
it's not because, like, the Kokiri aren't kids. They're, like, spirits. They're basically, like, wood nymphs. They're not really children. They're unaging. Like, they don't ever get any older than, like, 10 years old.
Right.
And they've all been 10 years old for, like, 100 years, you know? And so they're not, like, children. They're like, nymphs. They're something completely different. And I like that.
But that's one of those things where it's like, that shows, like, I really do love the Zelda timeline thing, because you can see, like, progress to this world go on. And it was weird playing Ocarina of Time with the Breath of the Wild map in my mind.
Yes.
Because I'm like, oh, that's this. I have been to this area that should have been a cool reference to me already.
Yeah.
But is now like a retroactive reference because I know where this place is.
You're like getting references now, and you're realizing that things have changed. My personal favorite iteration of the Zelda map is Twilight Princess. I just think Twilight Princess is the best fucking Zelda map ever. Oh my god.
It's a pretty good map, yeah.
It's a pretty good map. It's open, it's busy, and all sorts of good things like that. And there's that moment that kind of clicks, like, these are all the same place. You know, Death Mountain. Yeah. Death Mountain is Death Mountain, and it's always been Death Mountain. And I love it. God, I love that world.
Zelda has such a great. Hyrule is such a great environment to exist in.
Oh yeah, it feels so like. I don't know.
It's populated by all these great and unique species of creatures. You know, the Goron, the Zora. I think the Rito are some of the best additions to anything.
Yeah, the Rito are cool.
Like, I know they're not in Ocarina of Time, but I love the Rito a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad that Breath of the Wild lets the Rito and the Zora exist in the same, like, timeline. Yes. Like, I was always kind of, like, the thing that I always was a little bummed about, and it's just because I like the design of the Zora so much, was that it's implied that or it's basically outright stated that the Zora become the Rito in the new world of Wind Waker. And that always kind of bummed me out a little bit, because I, like, really like the Zora's design. So I'm glad that Breath of the Wild kind of, like, subtly retcons that and be like, no, they're two different species. Don't worry, it's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's great, because, and, you know, I love the Goron so much.
The Goron are goofy rock boys who dance and sing and eat stones. How could you not love them? These
good fat rock boys.
They're just good boys, and they love their rocks. And Darunia names his firstborn son after you, which is like the best detail ever. And Darunia is the best sage in the game, because he just fucking wants to rock out to Saria's song.
You play that song for him and he just starts jamming, and it's the best.
He's just so fucking happy, and he just wants to boogie, and his design is really strong. And yeah, man, it's all just like, they're all just happy to be alive. They love explosions and rocks and making shit out of rocks. And how can you not love... Oh, and they have a crazy fucking... Did you do the spinny thing in their town?
Yes, I did.
Where you throw the bomb into the statue and it spins around and spits shit at you? It's great.
Yup.
It's great. I love it.
So great.
It's so good. I love it so much. Oh, man. I love Ocarina of Time. It's just so weird. Things like that. Nobody tells you to do things like that.
That's another one of those things where it's just like the game that gives you no indication to do that, but you just try it. Maybe one day someone tried it in this world, and they talked about it, and it spread.
Yeah. It's just everybody knows to do it now, because it spits out a heart piece at you, I think. Yeah. Stuff like that. That's what makes Ocarina of Time so neat, is that it's just so, like, weird. It's so unique. It's willing to do just kind of be this strange, obtuse monster that doesn't hold your hand and just kind of says, have fun, kids. Yeah. And you feel like you're on an adventure.
It's really, really great. And, like, you know, you can still feel every influence from Ocarina of Time in all the later Zelda games, even up to Breath of the Wild, which, like, you know, there's like 3 stages of Zelda games now. There's the classic era, there's the 3D era, and now there's going to be the Breath of the Wild era.
Yeah, the open world era.
Which, and, like, but you can still feel everything. Well, like, for one thing, Ocarina of Time basically invented Z-targeting.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it great?
Which is in, like, everything now. Mm-hmm. It's in Kingdom Hearts.
It's in, like, everything. Hold a button, target, makes your life easier. You know, don't have to fight with the camera. Ocarina of Time, I will say, despite being an early gen... Nintendo did a really good job with their early gen 3D games of never making the camera too much of a beast. You know?
Right, yeah. Like, in Super Mario 64 and in Ocarina of Time, like, they found really good ways for you to keep the camera onto you.
Yeah.
Without having to include a second joystick.
Right.
And they you know, it helps that Ocarina of Time, for one thing, is also designed around having only one, you know, having no real way to freely control the camera. Right.
And then Z-targeting just pulls it back behind you, and it works. I mean, I don't really recall, again, it's been 10 years, but still, I don't think I've ever really fought with the camera in Ocarina of Time, ever.
There were a few times, especially when it would lock onto a jumping enemy and the camera would try to swivel for it. It would have some issues with that.
Yeah, that's true.
There are certain points where the camera would automatically sort of lower when you're in front of a pit to kind of give you a look down. Mm-hmm. But I would want to be looking ahead instead, and there's no way to, like, focus it.
Yeah.
So there are some issues, but again, it was brand new technology at the time. They were still figuring things out, and for the vast majority of the game, it works great.
Yeah, it's actually pretty functional for most of the game, which I think was pretty great. I mean, this was an early mass market 3D game, and they did a great job with it. I mean, Ocarina of Time is flawed in retrospect. There's a lot wrong with it. Bad conveyance, as we keep saying. Some pretty just general weirdness. The combat can be kind of samey, things like that. But in general, for the first foray into like a 3D adventure game, it's pretty fucking solid to this day. And
I think because of those things, because of the bad conveyance and because of all that, that's one of the reasons why it lasts so long and why people are still talking about it, is because it had that boom of continued discussion after it came out, you know?
Yeah.
Like you don't you don't get that level of discussion with something like Twilight Princess or with Wind Waker even, where it's like you don't get that kind of talk anymore.
Yeah, because it's all laid out for you.
Yeah, and instead we're left with this game where they say you figure it out, and it still has a bunch of mystery, quote unquote mysteries that like are left unfinished.
Yeah. It's neat.
They have an item in the game that is used to find secrets, and it is called the Stone of Agony.
Mm-hmm. Or the Shard of Agony in the 3DS version, if I'm correct.
That's right, but it is a thing designed to find prizes and good secrets, but it is called the Stone of Agony.
And it has, for some reason that never goes explained, it has the same mark as the Sheikah, the Sheik wears on his chest. Yeah, it has the same mark as the Sheikah. And the Sheikah are like a strange, unknowable force too. Like it's implied, like Impa is a Sheikah, and Sheik is masquerading as one. So like they are an actual race in this world, but like there isn't even, like, in games that have, like, oh, well, all this mystic shit's been branded with the fucking, like, the Forerunners in Halo, for example. And, like, the game's mysteries all kind of revolve around the Forerunners or whatever, Mm-hmm. And so, like, oh, it's this mysterious race, and they built all this cool, fancy shit, and, they are the source of the mystery in the world, and they kind of keep, well, this is Forerunner tech, well, this is Reaper tech, or blah, blah, blah. It keeps getting brought up. And it's kind of established, like, oh, this is the source of mystery in the world. In Ocarina of Time, they're like, this shit is Sheikah. That's it. Yep. We're not going to tell you anything else. And everybody's like, wait, what the fuck?
So, like, are the Sheikah wizards? Are they ninjas? Are they a different race beyond Hylian? Like, or are they just like a group of Hylians? Are they like
a sect of Hylians?
Yeah, like, can you earn the rank of Sheikah, or are you born a Sheikah? Like the Gerudo are humanoid, but they are specifically a different, even like a whole on different species than normal Hylians.
Right, because they have rounded ears, so they're actually a different species than Hylians. They're something else entirely. They're more like human. But the Sheikah are completely unexplained, and I don't think they've ever really explained them in the entirety of the fucking franchise.
I mean, Breath of the Wild has their version of Kakariko is a Sheikah town.
Oh.
But, like, again, it's not made clear if they're, like, if that's just, like, a name, or if they are a separate race. Like, what does the name Sheikah refer to a country or a species, basically?
Or like a tribe?
Yeah.
We don't know. It's great. It's great. Like, no, we're not going to explain shit. Have fun.
You piece it together. They're still doing that. They're still doing the whole you piece it together thing.
It's been 20 years, and they're like, nope, we're not going to tell you anything. Have fun putting together this timeline, assholes. They waited like 15 goddamn years to put out an official timeline. Like, how could you?
And you know why they're doing that, and it's because Nintendo doesn't care.
Nintendo does not care about the timeline.
They don't care about the timeline.
No,
they
not at all.
care. It's not important to them.
It's not important to Zelda. It's not important to the world. The timeline is just for fan knowledge, basically. Yeah. It's not important to the actual game one single bit.
They haven't revealed where Breath of the Wild takes place in the timeline because they don't care.
They don't care. It doesn't matter. Breath of the Wild is kind of its own fucking thing, and they just want to let it breathe and be its own game.
They deliberately put references to all three timelines in the game so that you can't piece it together for sure.
I'm going to personally fight Shigeru Miyamoto.
You're like, okay, I think it takes place here, but they make reference to an event from that, and there's a...
They're gonna come out and be like, it's its own fucking timeline, and I'm gonna get mad.
It's an origin point for a brand new timeline, basically.
And then I'm just gonna get mad. And then I'm going to demand justice for Ganondorf, because I still want a game where he gets to be a good guy. Listen, this is like, I've been carrying this cross for 10 years now.
Here's what you do, Sarah. Here's how you get around that. Is what you do is you buy yourself a Switch,
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you get Hyrule Warriors when it comes out. The
Right.
Definitive Edition.
Yes.
And then you do the story campaign as Ganondorf.
Right.
And you can pretend
That everything is fine.
that he's working with Link and Zelda.
His design in that game is so good.
Oh my god, it's so fucking good.
So fucking
it's
good.
really, really
all
good.
all of the designs in Hyrule Warriors are like
They're-
the best. They're
So you know what?
baller.
I was never a fan of Ocarina of Time Link.
Really?
I never was growing up. I never liked it. I always preferred I actually did prefer the Link to the Past design
Oh, really?
more.
He's
And-
not wearing any pants.
Yeah, but he's cute and he's more fun looking. And then and then I obviously prefer the Wind Waker design over everything else. But
Right.
after playing Ocarina of Time, I've really come to more like admire it and like it a bit more. Mm-hmm. That being said, I do not like Zelda's design.
Zelda's design is not my favorite. It's like the most iconic because it's obviously Ocarina of Time is the one everybody played.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely not my favorite Zelda design. That honor probably goes to Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess had a great Zelda design.
I think Twilight Princess, my least favorite is, and it's like for the most petty reason ever, and this is such a tangent, but whatever. My least favorite is Breath of the Wild right now.
Oh, which one? Because she has like 3 different outfits.
This is so petty. It's the blue one, because blue is not Zelda's color.
Yeah, I can
know
see
it's-
that. Like her kind of more like casual outfit, like her adventuring outfit.
And it's not that I think it looks bad. I actually think it's a great design. But I'm just so... And I know that, like, her original design, her dress was blue. Like, somebody is going to come to
Right.
me on Twitter and be like, Zelda's design has always been blue. Go fuck yourself.
She wears a lot of like blue and white really early on, but then like by
and then she transitions into the white dress.
yeah, and then Ocarina of Time was like the sort of like pink and purple, and that shade of things. And
It's been
like,
fucking
even-
pink since 1998.
Like,
If
even
her outfit was purple, I would not have a problem with it.
Even her Skyward Sword design had a lot of like, I think it was it pink or
It was
like
pink.
a reddish.
It was like a magenta, like
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like a
even
red
that.
pink.
And
yeah.
then she goes to blue, and you're right, blue is not really her color.
I know it traditionally is her color, and I bet that's kind of like, if Nintendo does say, like, this is a whole new timeline, then they're going to use Blue Zelda as, like, a proof of it, because she's not wearing pink the way, like, the other Zeldas in the timeline have, because, like, Ocarina of Time Zelda wears pink, Twilight Princess Zelda wears purple, Wind Waker Zelda wears pink, Skyward Sword Zelda wears pink, and then she transitions into a white dress. I know this is the most pedantic fucking thing in the world. I don't care. My whole life has been built around these games.
Now the thing is that like they made it blue because she had to match with the champions who all also wear blue. But like but I get what you're saying. Like it's not like it's not what you think of when you think of Zelda.
It's not what I think of when I think of Zelda. And I was like, even her princess dress, her princess dress is white. And that's fine, but like, make it pink.
And then in the DLC she gets another princess dress in the flashbacks, and it's dark blue.
Oh, yeah. I guess blue is now Zelda. But I guess, okay, I get it. I get why. Because Link's color is green, because he is, I don't actually know how to say this goddess's name. He is considered, like, connected to Pharaoh, F-A...
I always say Furore.
Furore? Yeah.
Yeah.
My whole life I've never known how to pronounce that.
See,
name.
I do Furore and Din, and I can never pronounce Naruto.
Moira O'Dearin.
It's the same thing as like trying to pronounce the Marvel character who is the Aquaman equivalent. You know him?
Namor?
Namor? Is it Namor? Because he's Roman backwards. So is it Namor?
Namor? Roman?
Namor? He's not in cartoons, so no one's ever said his name out loud.
Nobody says his name out loud. Shit. Oh no. I always say Nehru, but it doesn't come out natural. It does not sound natural. You know what I mean?
I wanted to say like Naryu for a while, but that's not how her name is spelled.
Because it's spelled Nayru. Nehru.
Yeah, like Nairu, but that doesn't feel like those. no way to pronounce it feels right on the mouth.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like natural, like at all. But that's a huge tangent. The point is, Zelda, Link is associated with Furore because green and courage. Ganon is associated with red. His hair is red, and he's associated with Din because red power. And then Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, is blue. But Zelda always has worn pink. So it's like, there's a disconnect there. So I get why they're like, let's make Zelda pink. But then they made the problem where Link's fucking tunic, his starter tunic in Breath of the Wild is blue. So they match. And it's like, what are you doing? You're driving me crazy.
There's no consistency anymore.
There's no consistency anymore. Everything's gone mad. Cats and dogs living together. It's insanity.
Okay, so you don't watch Voltron, but the same problem exists in Voltron.
Oh, really?
Where the paladins kind of go through like a rotation of lions.
Right.
But they don't change their collective armor color.
Oh.
So
I don't like it.
You have Lance in blue armor piloting the red lion.
Oh, no, I don't like it.
You have well, the problem is this is a carryover from the old Voltron, where like at least in the new Voltron we had 2 seasons where it was consistent, everyone was matched up correctly.
Right.
In the old Voltron, they started off with bad color pairing,
and it never went away.
Like, yeah, and it never got better, and it's just like the only 2 that match are Pidge and Hunk, and now everyone else is in the wrong fucking lion.
Oh my god, great!
I hate it. I hate it so much.
I hate that like Link is now associated with a blue tunic, even though I don't mind the design. If I would not mind the design of the blue tunic, and I know it's a reference to the lobster pajamas in Wind Waker, but the lobster pajamas in Wind Waker are not important enough to throw off the color theory of the Legend of Zelda. Okay? Link is supposed to be green. I will fight everybody for this. I don't mind that they got rid of the hat.
I honestly think that it would be easier to accept the blue if Link did have some kind of headgear in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, but he doesn't. It's weird.
No, he doesn't.
You have to cobble together a hero's tunic, because the one that's in now we're talking about a completely different Zelda, but you have to cobble together a fucking hero's tunic that looks halfway decent, because the actual canonical hero's tunic in Breath of the Wild looks like trash, and
it looks
Link
so bad.
is wearing slutty, ripped up tights.
It's so bad.
It looks
like it doesn't fit him.
It doesn't.
Like, it looks like it's too
fit
small.
Him. It's weird, and it's like the color is off, and the detailing is weird.
It just hit me. You know what he looks like with that on?
A bad cosplayer?
He looks like cartoon Link.
He does, but in the wrong fucking game.
He looks like excuse me, Princess Link.
It's not good. It's not good.
There's a fun fact for you. Mm-hmm. The cartoon was the first game to give Link an actual consistent fairy companion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think her name was like Sparkle or something.
I've never seen a single episode of the cartoon.
I watched. There were only.
I want to keep it that way.
I think there were only like 6
episodes.
Oh, because it was like an in-between for the Super Mario show, you know?
Right.
Like, it wasn't like its own thing. It was like an in-between. And ooh boy.
You ever think about how like Zelda still doesn't have like an anime, like a good anime?
I have told you this, and I've never expressed it on the podcast, but you need to fucking JoJo Zelda, and you will have the perfect multi-season anime. Each season is a game.
Absolutely.
You can sum up a whole game's worth of content in 26 episodes.
For sure. You could do some of these games in 12.
And then you move on to the next Link. You hire a different studio to animate it to show that it's different.
Or what you do is you go get Studio Wit, the guys who do like Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress and Attack on Titan, basically the guys who do like really beautiful action anime. And then you tell them, I want you to adapt the story that's in the back of the Hyrule Historia.
God, that manga's so good!
I know! It makes me so mad!
That's one of the best Links ever.
He's a badass!
He's this disgraced knight in prison that they have to beg to help.
Fuck you!
Holy
how do you give us that kind of a fucking hook and then do nothing with it?
That's so fucking cool! And he doesn't befriend a Zelda, he befriends the goddess! the goddess.
I'm so mad. I want that game. I want that game or that anime so badly.
That fucking page where it's just him chained up in the bottom of a cellar.
Yeah,
and he's still bleeding from fresh. It's fucking
so
cool.
How do you not fucking do it? I mean, the fact that exists and then Nintendo did nothing with it is proof that I have no faith in Nintendo whatsoever. I'm just like, how could you do this to me? I loved you once. You know, like,
oh my god, that manga is so cool.
It's cool, and we don't have a cool Zelda anime yet.
We don't, and they really, I'm kind of hoping the Mario Brothers movie that's going to come out soon, the one by the studio that does Despicable Me and all that.
Yeah.
I hope that is good and is a success, because maybe that'll get Nintendo to just go, maybe some cartoons again.
Maybe we should be making some good-ass cartoons again.
Maybe we do anime again.
Maybe we should make fucking Zelda anime and stop wasting my goddamn time with this Mario bullshit. You know? Like, why don't you just give me Zelda? Like what I've wanted my entire life.
Remember when they were gonna make a Zelda movie? Remember they were gonna make that, and everyone saw, like, that announcement and went, that's not coming out. Nintendo announces live-action Zelda movie. No, they don't.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Yeah, I like, you remember how they did that, like, 5 different times, and it never happened?
Oh my, like, there's always, like, if you dig hard enough in the internet, you'll always find a rumor within, like, the past 3 months of a Zelda movie.
Yeah, every time you'll go digging, you're like, oh, Zelda movie, and then you're like, it's not gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. There's not gonna be a Zelda movie. We're never gonna get any cool Zelda media outside of the games, because go fuck yourself, I guess. I want to give you my money, Nintendo. Why won't you take it? Why won't you take it?
The interesting thing now is that I kind of thought about this recently, because Breath of the Wild came out around the same time Samurai Jack Season 4 came out, or Season 5 came out, and it's like, you can make a show with a mute protagonist. It's called Samurai Jack. There's fucking entire episodes of that show where Jack has, like, 3 lines of dialogue.
Tops. There are episodes of that show where Jack does not say a word.
Phil Lamar had the easiest job in the world playing that character. His script was like a page long.
It's just like, say this, now say this. Cool, thanks.
Just go,
have a nice day.
Just go,
Right, and make, like, sword grunty noises, like when you swing, like, ha! Yeah! You know, that's it. That's all you gotta do. Have fun. You're Phil Lamar. You get paid for that.
Since we are kind of like in wrap-up territory, I do want to share one more story. Speaking of voice actors, did you know one of the more recent voice actors for Link played Aaron in Attack on Titan?
Yes, I did know that. Bryce Papenbrook.
No, not Bryce Papenbrook. It's a Japanese voice actor.
Oh,
The Japanese voice for all of Link's, like, grunts and stuff for a while was the Japanese voice actor for Aaron.
Really? Okay,
and
I thought I read somewhere that Bryce Papenbrook did the voice, did the grunts for fucking.
No, because they never redubbed the grunts. Because
I know.
Link never talks. You know,
I guess that makes sense. I didn't really think about it that way.
Yeah, but yeah, I read that casting. I'm like, that's good casting.
That's good casting.
You need someone who can scream real loud, real good a lot. Yeah, that's good. That's a good pick.
Yeah, that tracks. That actually makes a lot of sense. But, you know, I want my Zelda anime.
It was very weird playing Ocarina of Time and hearing voice clips from Smash Brothers in there, because that's where I associate it with.
Okay, but Ocarina of Time came first, asshole.
I know it did, but like I hear, like, whenever Link falls off a cliff, I'm like, oh, that's when he gets blown off the stage. That's that sound effect. I know that sound effect.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the thing that always weirds me out is going to, like, others, because like Ocarina of Time has just burned itself into my brain. I have dreams about Ocarina of Time 20 years later. Hearing other grunts that aren't like the ones I know from Ocarina of Time, I'm like, this is wrong. That's not what Link sounds like.
Yeah.
You know?
So there is one thing that I really, really appreciate about this game. And it's something like I didn't really know that it was in this game, because again, I never played it that much. And it's like, it's one of those things where, like, you somehow miss this one consistent thing in a game you've, like, that's so popular and talked about, but like you didn't personally experience. It's when Link falls from a great height, and he stalls because his legs hurt, and he does the anime sound.
The little yeah. That's so good.
I love that. I love that so much.
That sound effect when he falls from like really far and just lands on his feet is really good. Like that. I know that's so specific, but getting the Goron hammer, I heard it a lot because I was constantly falling in that part. Yeah. I fall a lot when I try and do that sequence, so I'm always hearing the scream and then the sound. But anyways, the sound when you hit the ground is actually a really good sound effect. I don't know why. It's just really punchy.
It makes a good noise. Funny. It's funny.
It's hilarious. Yeah.
You know, it makes that sudden thud. And then
yeah, it's so funny. And then you lose a bunch of fucking hearts, and you're just like, all right, let's go do this again.
But it's like, but you don't care because you've got to hear the funny noise.
Yeah,
Mario does that in Odyssey now. He doesn't take damage from great falls, but if he drops from like 10 stories up, he will like freeze in place as his knees kind of buckle a little. And it's like, awesome. Oh, it's great.
Details. It's good. Yeah, there's a lot of really good detail stuff, even in Zelda.
Even in Ocarina of Time, like, hey, Link looks at things.
Yeah, he has head tracking, and,
which, like, never existed before that. I think it existed in Resident Evil, but that's about it.
Mm-hmm. And just, I don't know, like, all the little things, like the characters and the people, it's just nice.
The other nice thing is that if you are on a staircase and you put Link sideways, he will have one leg lifted up, and it's like, oh, that's a detail you didn't... That was probably a pain in the ass to program.
Almost certainly, but it looks great, and it's just, you know, it's kind of like that little extra, it grounds the game in the real world instead of floating on top of stairs. You just think like, oh, this feels like a thing, like a place I'm actually in. Yeah.
Ocarina of Time's a really good game.
It still holds up.
I feel bad that I didn't quite play it like back in the day.
Yeah, but it, you know, it's kind of shocking how well it holds up for being 20 years old and being an old 3D game. It
is, like, comparatively to Wind Waker, to Twilight Princess, and Breath of the Wild, it's so much smaller.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot
holy
smaller.
Shit, this is a tiny... I don't know if it's because I played it on such a small screen, but, like, wow, it is comparatively...
It's a small world.
Yeah, and I'm sure it felt gigantic back in the day.
It did. It felt huge.
But I've just been spoiled on other games, but God, like, it's...
The music is so good, too.
The music is great. The Gerudo Fortress theme.
And the Forest Temple. Forest Temple has a really underrated track, but that, like, weird singing in the background is so good. The
whole soundtrack. I love... Okay, so I've expressed my love for SNES Mega Man X guitars. I fucking love N64 trumpets.
N64 trumpets are really good. You're right.
They were like the boss theme in Ocarina of Time, and like all the tracks in Star Fox 64 are so bombastic with their MIDI trumpets.
Yeah, and they're just so like you just again, this feels like a whole big new world, and it's great. It's great. Ocarina of Time's really good.
It's a really fun game. I'm thinking about getting Majora's Mask now and going down that one.
That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Because that's like you thought Ocarina of Time is mysterious and weird and goofy. Oh, fucking buckle up, pal.
Boy. Yeah. Have fun, my dude, because it's it's weird. I like it, but it's weird.
It is a concept for a
game.
Wind
Waker is a game not Wind Waker, Majora's Mask is I didn't actually finish that one until a very, very, very long time later. I didn't finish it when I was a kid. I played it for a little while, I didn't like it, and I put it down, and I went back to it years later. So I actually don't have the same level of nostalgia coloring my view of it. I might actually, if we ever do a Majora's Mask episode, I might actually play it too.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I guess I'm a Zelda fan.
Yeah.
I guess I am. Like...
You've played all of them.
I was always fond of Zelda in the past, but like, I playing Ocarina of Time and still playing Breath of the Wild and like thinking about Wind Waker and thinking about like even playing Link to the Past. Like I still look at the SNES Classic and I'm like, it has Link to the Past on it.
But it's got Link to the Past on it though.
I could be replaying Link to the Past.
You could, and it would be good. I really want an SNES Classic. I'm like always trying to talk myself out of it. I'm constantly like, man, I only spend $80 on a game I could emulate, on a system I could emulate, and then I go like, yeah, but
it's got all the games already,
and it's got like Star Fox on it, and it's got like a cutesy little like system, and like the actual controllers, and it has Final Fantasy VI, and a bunch of other really good things. You could be playing that. It has Super Mario Land World. I can't remember which one it is.
It has World and World 2, which is the one no one remembers, but it's really good.
Yeah! You could be playing all of these really good-ass games. Super Mario Land is the Game Boy game. My bad.
Yeah.
It has Super Mario World on it. You could be playing all of these good-ass games on your TV the way God intended, because I still have a CRT. You won't take it from me, Melee players!
One day a Melee player will come to your house and they will at gunpoint demand your CRTV because they have a tourney to go to.
I would fight a Melee player in the street in front of my house.
They would defeat
CRT.
you. They would defeat you though because they have nothing to lose.
Because they are already the scum of fighting tournaments.
How can you defeat which that has no existence?
They can't sink any lower. They already still play Melee. Okay, we should probably wrap it up.
Melee also has Ocarina of Time Link.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't it? And Soul Calibur 2.
Ah, the game... Yeah! Oh boy, I forgot about that. Have you seen that clip where you can like double KO with Link and Soul Calibur?
Yeah, because they both arrow each other.
Yeah. It's so stupid. Oh man, that is a weird decision, isn't it?
One like real quick on that. I love that like in Soul Calibur 2, like when you do the versus screen, like you can press a button and like a character will like do a taunt. They'll be like, like souls come unto me or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you just do Link and he's just
It's so stupid. What a weird crossover. I mean, definitely Soul Calibur 4 and Star Wars was weirder. But man.
No, Link was not the weird one. Link is actually a natural pick for like a
Spawn was the weird one.
Spawn was the weird one.
Spawn was the very strange decision.
I can even understand, it's like, what's his name in the PS2 version? I just lost his name. The Tekken guy.
The fucking... Heihachi?
Heihachi, yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand Heihachi because, they have Yoshimitsu in Soul Calibur and in Tekken.
Right, it's like a thing.
But, fucking Spawn was weird.
That was a weird decision because, Spawn was already in Soul Calibur. His name was Nightmare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Man, we are really getting off topic this episode.
Keep putting Link in more crossover games.
Please, because it's so bizarre.
But yeah, so... Ocarina of Time is really good. I'm really happy I played it. Everyone was right.
Of course.
Everyone was right. It's a really good game.
I'm always right. I told you. It's a really good game. I'll be right about Chrono Cross, too, when that day comes.
Yeah, you will. That'll happen. Soon. But for now, thanks to Broke Free Fuse for background music. You can follow us on Twitter at The Gorge Podcast. You can email us stuff at thegorgepodcast@gmail.com. Again, our Patreon is patreon.com/thegorgepodcast. And Sarah has another podcast, which she is going to tell you in detail about now.
Ooh, I like the new segue. Hey, I'm in another podcast. It's an LGBT live play tabletop podcast where me and a bunch of cool friends get together and play different pen and paper RPGs. Right now we're actually testing a game called Spells. It is a game that was kickstarted, and the creator sent us a free version, and we are demoing it for people who want to donate to the Kickstarter, so you should come check us out. We're on SoundCloud at Big Gay Nerds, and you can find all of our links from there. Thank you.
Awesome. So that'll do it for us.
I know this one. I've been ready for this I've been, prepping for this all fucking week.
Go for it.
Fuck Nintendo for the way they did my Ocarina of Time boy dirty. Okay? You know how these things have kind of become, the Sara, rant power hour?
Yep.
you better buckle in, because, like, how fucking dare you, Nintendo? How dare you take my good boy, my good tights-wearing boy, who never did anything wrong, and who just wanted to live happy and free in the fucking forest with all of his little spirit friends, you know, all he ever wanted was a fucking fairy and to fit in, and no, you gotta tell me that he died, like, miserable, and, like, missing an eye, and he never had any kids, and his life was just, like, pain, and he was, like, suffering until the fucking Twilight Princess Link rolls around and is like, here, I'm here to learn all of your skills, sad man. And you're gonna tell me that your flagship boy, your good flagship boy, who is just, like, a bastion of purity, and is just, like, the sweetest kid in the universe.
This kid who's just doing his best, he is a toddler, and he's just going on this adventure.
He brings people back their dogs, you know? And he's just a good kid. You want to tell me that kid who only ever wanted a happy ending gets none of that? He doesn't even get his fucking fairy back at the end of Ocarina of Time. Majora's Mask. That good kid you keep screwing over. Fuck you, Nintendo. How dare you?
Feel better?
No, because I'm still sad about it, but it helped.
Poor kid.
It helps. So yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.